Yeah, I'm going to use an Eagles quote here because I am thinking of it, and it's hungry dogs run faster, and I live by that.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Women's Game. Today, we have another special episode made possible by our good friends at Ally Financial, a leading sponsor in the women's sports space and home to the largest all-digital bank in the U.S. Here at TWG, we could not be more excited that the NWSL is officially back. Plus, this weekend is the NWSL's Rivals Weekend presented by Ally. Ally is the first ever official sponsor of the NWSLPA and is an official partner of the NWSL and the WNBA, who are also hosting their first Rivals Week right now. Ally is proud to play a role in bringing these platforms to life as they continue to intentionally invest in powering the growth of athletes, fandom, and leagues across women's sports. Ally's larger mission is to improve the economic mobility of others in all that they do, and that includes how they operate in the world of sports sponsorship. Tonight, the Women's Game and Ally are putting on a live show in New York City ahead of NWSL Rivals Weekend, highlighting the matchup between Gotham and the Washington Spirit. We will be at Racket in New York City tonight, August 7th at 7:30 p.m. with special guests Katie Nolan, Rose Lavelle, Emily Sonnet, and more to talk about all things NWSL rivalries. This weekend, the league's biggest stars and teams are going head-to-head in marquee matchups that define the intensity and passion of this league. We are so grateful to Ally for supporting women's sports like the NWSL and the WNBA. And we thought it was the perfect time to bring on one of this NWSL season's breakout stars to talk about one of the NWSL's newest and fiercest rivalries, the SoCal Derby, Angel City versus San Diego Wave. So everybody, here is Riley Tiernan. Today on the show, we have Riley Tiernan. Riley, I have been wanting to chat with you ever since you burst onto the scene in your debut performance with Angel City with so much energy. In just the past few months, you've gone from unsigned roster guest to the rookie in the Golden Boot race. Riley Tiernan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Super excited.
I know. I'm so excited to chat with you. I know how busy you are, obviously training with Angel City for these next crucial games. Plus, recently you were hitting the red carpet for the ESPYs and the Players Ball, where I feel like you and I really bonded over our understanding of the meaning of GTL.
Gym tanning laundry.
You're from New Jersey, right?
Shore, yeah.
Okay. Hero.
Yes, we did. I was so happy to hear that question. I was like, wow.
I know. I was a little bit surprised. First, if our listeners haven't seen this video on our social channels, we were playing the Millennial versus Gen Z game. And so, Riley, when you guys walked up, I was like, oh, they're Gen Z. Like, who knows if they'll know? And you immediately were like, gym, tan, laundry. Yeah. So my first question for you, obviously, despite your age, was Jersey Shore like a cultural turning point in your life for you like it was for me?
Yeah, I think I watched it because my older sister, Madison, that was like her generation more so. But yeah, I watched it probably when I was like 12. I don't really remember how old I was, but then
way too young.
and then I rewatched it, I think in high school, and I rewatched it in college. That was like my comfort show. So I would literally just put it on and have it on. And like, I think I can recite every single line of that show. I just love it.
Okay, well, you and I will have to have like a Jersey Shore viewing party sometime. It was like very much my generation. I've rewatched it a bunch of times as well. And I do feel like this is a perfect way to start talking about where you grew up. Voorhees Township, which is southern Jersey, kind of close to Philadelphia, which I actually think has some of the most hardcore sports fans in the country. I want to hear a little bit about the sports energy and culture in your house and where you grew up.
My family personally is very like blue collar, like tough, like work for everything that you get. So I think that that's really important to like the way that I became an athlete, and like growing up, like knowing that I have to always work hard and nothing's going to be given to me. So I think that's a huge thing that's helped me through this process, especially because at this level, it's the only thing that really separates like players, I feel like, is work ethic. And I feel like you can't really teach that. So a lot of credit to my parents for raising us that way. Definitely made me more tough mentally. So I think it prepped me a lot.
Yeah, that actually sounds really familiar to me. I feel like it's kind of that like Northeast blue collar work hard mentality. What about like the professional teams that you and your family were fans of? Are you like a Phillies Eagles fan?
Yeah, huge Eagles fan, huge Phillies fan. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I love that. I grew up, obviously, I'm from Boston. So I grew up a big fan of like all Boston teams. And I actually think that being a big fan of sports teams in Boston, you kind of feel like everybody else hates your teams. I will say, because we were so good, especially the Patriots. But I think also like being a fan of the professional teams in your area also teaches you young to be like interested in rivalries and to
Yeah.
really like give them a lot of like credence. How do you think, or do you have any specific memories of learning about a big rivalry with one of the teams that you cheered for?
Well, I know the Eagles and the Cowboys have always had a huge rivalry, so that was definitely one. I know the Super Bowl this past year was pretty intense. I feel like there was like a lot of either you were for the Chiefs or you were for the Eagles. There was like no in between. I just love the Eagles because like it's such like a unified group. Like everyone's so like diehard, and it's like you really do feel like you're a part of like a family. And they always say like no one likes us, we don't care, which I think is like such a good motto to have for like any sports team because like it's literally you versus everyone, which is I think how it should be. And I think it shows how successful they were in this past year and then the 2015 Super Bowl, I think.
Yeah. I love that so much. And I feel like you can just see how, like, for kids to grow up understanding that it would make them more competitive athletes themselves. And the way you've grown up, it makes so much sense to me that you've like made it to this level. I know your sister Madison, who you mentioned a little bit, also played soccer. She played professional, but there's a 7-year age gap between the two of you. So a little bit further than my sister and I. Christy is like a year and a half, 2 years. She was 2 years in school older than me. We have a lot in common already, but I'm also the younger sister. We're definitely going to bond over that too. Growing up, were you and Madison competitive with each other?
She would definitely was more of like a mother to me, I would say,
Oh,
like a second mom. Yeah, like she
so
would.
cute.
Yeah, we would definitely like play around like in the yard, and she would teach me a lot of stuff. But I feel like my brother and I were more so like competitive when it comes to that stuff. But I think Madison, I like learned a lot from her just by like observing and like going to watch her play all the time. Like I just grew up around it, so it was like all I ever knew. But yeah, I feel like she's like my second mom, and still to this day, like she checks in, she tells me what to do. Like she's very helpful, and I use her wisdom to help me
Oh
because
my God, that's so nice. I love that. I mean, this episode is specifically meant to highlight rivalries, but it really does sound like you and Madison had more of a peaceful relationship. I know you
yeah.
shared a room growing up, but Madison actually went professional in the NWSL. You were still a teenager. What did it feel like for you to get to watch her compete at that level?
Yeah, I think that was where I like was really inspired. I think I was so lucky to have that growing up. I feel like that's an advantage that like not a lot of people have to just have that like built in for you. But I think just being constantly like surrounded and going to those games just made me want to be there. And like I would watch my sister on the field, like, and it was just like surreal. And I was really just wanting that to be me. I was like, wow, my sister's like so successful. Like, how can I fill her shoes and even go beyond that, you know?
I mean, I talk about this a lot, but I think that when you're like from a small town, you dream of making the national team and playing professional soccer. And that's kind of what everybody like says in school, like, oh, I'm going to be a professional athlete. That I felt like as the younger sister, when my sister started to like make these notable teams and like get called into national team camp, it almost made it feel closer to me and made it seem like it was actually possible rather than being like this pipe dream that everybody had. And in that way, I always felt like Christy's success paved the path for me to believe it was actually possible for like this random person from Hanson, Massachusetts to like make the national team. I also found that the older I got, I started looking for ways that I could like differentiate myself from Christy a little bit. I felt like I was in her shadow a lot. Like all the coaches and all the teachers would be like, oh, you're Christy's little sister. And I came to think of myself so much as the little sister, so much so that when it was time for me to go to college, I went all the way across the country to UCLA. As you were growing up, were there ever any ways that you found yourself being like, I need to like find out who I am as an individual and differentiate myself from Madison a little bit?
Yeah, I think that's always been like a thing. I completely agree. I feel like it's very easy to like just kind of follow in the footsteps and like they pave the way for you. But I know that like in high school, I went to the same high school, we went to the same college. And then honestly, I think when I got the invitation from Angel City, that was when I was kind of like, I want to make my own path. Like I at first was like, okay, it would be cool to play close to home, like which would be Gotham, which was Sky Blue where she played. But then I was like, you know what? I kind of want to like spread my wings. Like I was always like super close to home, like an hour drive. So it was kind of just like I was always like kind of in my comfort zone a little bit. So that's why I wanted to take that big step and be like, you know what, I'm going to change the pattern here and go far away. And I'm really glad I did.
Yeah, well, I'm like so excited to talk about this, your decision to go all the way to LA to play for Angel City. I know that after a really great college career at Rutgers, where your sister actually became one of your coaches.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that dynamic was like?
I always get that question. I think that's such a good question though. But yeah, going into it, I felt like maybe I was a little bit I didn't want people to think like, oh, like her sister's one of the coaches. But if anything, I feel like, especially with the relationship we have, she was always like kind of like wanting the best for me, wanting to teach me, wanting to make me like the best person and player I can be. So I think she was always tough on me. But I think when it came to practice, that also applied. Like it was nice to have someone to talk to all the time. Like I could vent to her because like it's obviously my sister, so I could tell her anything and trust her with anything.
Yeah.
But then I also have like the opposite, which is like, okay, like if I don't perform the way I'm supposed to, like she's gonna get on me, which at the time maybe I was like, oh, this is kind of annoying. But like looking back, like it definitely helped me way more than I will ever realize.
Oh my gosh, for sure. I feel like any advice I take from my sister, like sometimes it is hard to hear,
Yeah.
but in so many ways, like she knows you better than anybody. And so she actually knows exactly how to get through to you. I also know that when you finished up at school, you were part of this like kind of unique first class of women's pre-professional soccer players because every other class entering the league had a draft, including Madison, who was drafted to Sky Blue in 2017. She played there for 4 years. But this year there was no draft. Players had to individually negotiate with teams and like sign deals. And I feel like this must have been like a totally new path for you because you did have like examples in front of you to guide you through every step until now, where literally no draft class has ever done this before. You had no familiarity with it. So it was uncharted territory in so many ways. How did you feel going into the 2025 year about like navigating the process on your own?
Yeah, I think my experience was a little bit unique. Right when my season was done, like I had heard from Angel City, and then there was a change in the coach. So then that kind of I was kind of like, oh crap, like what do I do now? Because I was kind of left like in the unknown. Like I didn't know what was going to happen from there. And at that point, I didn't have an agent yet. So then I was scrambling after that to get an agent. I did that whole process. And I felt like that part was kind of out of my control once I got the agent. So I let them do their thing. And I just went to AP2T, which is a training right by Rutgers, like one of the best places ever. So I was just in there like for 3 hours a day, like may have been there for too much, but I was just like locked in and like I had one goal and like I knew what I wanted. And then I finally got an invitation from Angel City to be a trialist and also Gotham. And that was when I was like, okay, now I have the choice, like to continue the way I've been going, or do I like spread my wings and make like a huge jump and take a huge risk? It was so exciting at first, like when I thought that I was going to sign, and then it kind of got like a little messed up, but then I got the opportunity again and I was like, okay, like I have to take it. Like I felt it in my gut, like it was like the place for me to go. So then I came here and I remember I was at a little house in Thousand Oaks right by the training facility, and beautiful view, like mountains, sunset. I was like, I need to be in this place like for a long time. Like I love it here. And it was like winter too. So I came from Jersey where it was like cold and snowy to like why is it 70 degrees and there's palm trees
every
so
day.
Like, yeah. So I think that made me like so hungry. And I felt like I was more than prepared when it, like soccer wise. So I think the only part of that was tough was like the mental part. I think that was what really got to me. But yeah, I just tried to take it like day by day because I think that was probably one of the toughest like mental things I've gone through.
And by that, do you just mean that period of time where you were like waiting to hear from a team?
Yes. It was like probably one of the most brutal things ever, to be honest.
Can you tell us more about it? Like not to dig deep into like a wound, but tell us your mental state when you had heard from Angel City and then they got a new coach and you were unsure. Was there ever a low point in there where you were like, I don't know if this is going to work out?
Yeah, I definitely had doubts. The only part about it that was like so frustrating was because like I just wanted like a chance. Like I was afraid that like, because that's like I can control like my training, what I'm doing, and like I can't control like what teams reach out or like what opportunities I get. So I was just like praying to just get the door open a little bit so I could like jump in and be like, all right, I'm good. So once I got the invitation, I was like, okay, like I feel better.
Obviously, you mentioned like the pros of living in LA, which I totally understand. I already mentioned when it came time for me to kind of make a similar decision and like branch out, I immediately was like, I'm going all the way to UCLA, and I went all the way across the country. And it was the same kind of like realization when I visited the campus. I was like, oh my God, it's perfect weather. The campus is so beautiful. And that was almost enough to like make me go there. So that totally resonates with me. Like it makes total sense. I'm curious if there have been any challenges to being so far away from home and where you've lived your whole life until now.
Yeah, I think I've always been like a homebody, like, but for me, I don't know if it's because I'm the younger sibling. I feel like a lot of my characteristics are like very younger sibling vibes. I don't know. Are you the youngest?
Yeah.
Okay, so you just have an older sister?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so like growing up with like older siblings, I don't know. I feel like I was always like never like afraid of anything. Like I was just, it was like good and bad. My mom would say the
Wow.
same thing. Like fearless, like it has its
To a
pros and
fault.
it has its cons. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's times where it's maybe good to have a little bit of fear, but like I just think that's something that I don't know, I just lack. During the time where I was like a trialist, I think that was I was a little homesick, and it was partially like I just wanted like to be like with the people that I knew because everyone here was still like really new, and I was obviously going through the mental challenge of like having to show up every day and like work as hard as I possibly can, and then like that mental aspect was like tough not having my mom there to just like give me a hug and stuff like that. Once they offered me and I knew I was going to be here, I kind of just adapted, and I feel like I'm very like quick at adapting. And then like we went away a couple times, and then I finally moved into my apartment, and then we would go on away trips, and I'd be like, wait, like my apartment is like my home. Like I like it's like my
Oh,
new home. So
yeah.
yeah, I think I adapted pretty quick. I obviously love my family and miss them so much, but I appreciate when I get to see them, but I don't think I get too homesick after like a little bit of time.
It makes a lot of sense that you're like doing this. And now I'm speaking to you like I'm your older sister, but like you're at the age where like you're being independent and doing your own thing. And that's
Yeah.
really fun. I do know another thing we have in common, Riley. And now I'm like, wow, we have so much in common. But you just became an aunt last year. And I have
Yes.
heard that you're like FaceTiming your nephew all the time. I am also a long distance aunt. And so I'm wondering if you have any tips. Like, how do I make them like remember me?
Yeah, that's the one really tough thing. Like such unfortunate timing, like the prime time to like watch him
Yeah.
grow. Like he every time I see him, he's like doing something new. Like he's walking, and then next time I see him, he's probably gonna be talking like full sentences. And I'm gonna be like, who are you? Like what happened? My sister sends pictures like every day, thank God, because I literally live for them. Like I wake up
Yeah.
every morning to a text of him getting his hair cut or something, or him eating.
Oh.
So yeah, I think definitely like seeing pictures of him helps. And she'll FaceTime me all the time, and it'll be him on the phone, and I'll be like, hey Grady, what's up?
Oh my gosh. Well, my best friend Lynn Biondolo is like a long distance aunt as well, and her nieces and nephews like are so obsessed with her. They remember every single thing about her. So I have a lot of faith that we can do it and still be like
Yeah.
really important in their lives. I do want to go a little bit deeper into the moment that you got offered your contract because I feel like it was a really unique situation for a rookie. Again, like this draft has never not happened before. So for a rookie to go all the way across the country and you kind of had to try out for your spot. Do you remember the specific moment where Angel City was like, yeah, we want to sign you?
Oh, yes, I remember. I don't think I will ever forget that. I'll be 80 years old and remember that. I remember it was after training, and it was like I remember specifically the night before. Like I have a Snapchat photo of me, and I was literally like having a mental breakdown, like crying, like I don't know how much longer I can do this, like I'm going crazy. And then the next day, I'm walking off the training field after practice, and Coach Larry, she says, Mark Parsons wants to speak to you. And I'm like, oh gosh, like, here's the answer. Like, I was like so relieved to just have an answer, like whether it
Yeah.
was going to be a good one or a bad one, like just get the answer and then
Yeah.
what, go from there. So then I walk into the room, and it's Mark Parsons and Mark Wilson, and they're like sitting there, like two of the most like, I find them very intimidating people. Not that they actually are
Yeah.
now that I know them, but at the
Yeah.
time I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, like I remember he said, we want to offer you and we want you more of the long term. not just like a 1-year contract. So they offered that, and I was like, oh my gosh, like I would have been happy with just 1 year. And
Yeah.
then they offered more. So I was like, okay, wow. And then I think at the time I wasn't even like able to process because I had been waiting so long, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is actually happening. And then I went back into the locker room, and he told me not to tell the team, which is like, how am I going to do that? Like I'm walking in like crying happy tears, and
I
like
know.
how
And I'm
am I
sure everybody was like, what did they want?
yeah, and I remember Madison Hammond and Sarah Gordon. They were like by my locker, and they were like, "What did he say?" And I was like, "Oh, like, they offered me." And then they were like, "Oh my god!" And then I remember I went like outside by like where we go for training because like I wanted to call my sister and my mom. I texted in the group chat right away, and I said, "OMG, they offered me a contract," like in all caps. And then my sister FaceTimes me, and she's like crying hysterically, and then I started
Oh.
crying hysterically. Um, but yeah, it was just so like relieving, and I was so happy to finally like just feel like I was at a place where I could stay, and it was more than I could have asked for, and so far since then it's been amazing.
Oh my God,
Pleasant
I'll
surprise.
say. So far, so good, Riley. You're crushing it. I feel like signing that contract was really just the beginning. I must have felt like such a long journey to get to that point, but now you're like in your professional career. And I was actually at your debut game. I went to Angel City's opening game against San Diego, who are your SoCal rivals. The energy of that game was incredible because it was the season opener, because it was at BMO Stadium, but also because that this rivalry is just like so heated. And anytime you're kind of watching two teams that have, whether it's, you know, a newer rivalry or like one of the most historic ones, there's just a little bit of extra tension. Did you feel not just pressure that it was your first game, but more pressure because of these teams' kind of like history?
Yeah, I think there was definitely pressure when it came to the rivalry, but I didn't really know like too much about it. I think I was more so like just trying to like breathe and like
Yeah.
be like, oh my gosh, because I remember walking out and I was like, holy crap, like what is going on? Like I'm actually about to play in front of all these people and like start as that. So
I
like
know.
it was
I
just
know.
I don't even like think I was there that game because I was just like trying to run around and like do as much as I could while like
You ran so much that game.
I like literally couldn't even like think. I was just running with no purpose. But yeah, I mean, that was just crazy in
I
every
mean,
aspect.
yeah, and your stadium and your fans are also so incredible. I know that you got your first goal in your very next game, and then you pretty much never stopped scoring. You have helped Angel City get off to one of the best starts in recent memory. You're actually also one of the league's current leading scorers, just behind Esther Temwashuenga and Barbara Bandit in the Golden Boot race, some of the biggest names in all of global football. How does it make you feel to hear your name listed with all those other names?
I'm still not like processing that it's like a real thing. But a part of me wants to like not really think about that right now because I haven't really done anything yet, technically. So I don't want to just like settle for the success that I've had so far. I think right now I'm really focused on like now I created a little bit of pressure for myself. So just trying to like handle that properly and like use that pressure to make me do better and not like think too much about it and kind of like I don't want to like fall off. So
I love that you brought that up. And there is so much ahead of you. I know you've been going in with the U23s, but I'm sure that the US women's national team is also like looming in your mind. Everything that I have heard about you in all of the research we did for this interview, all of your coaches have always talked about the fact that you thrive under pressure. And I think what's so interesting is that Angel City is a team with so many talented forwards. Alyssa Thompson, Claire Emsley, Kristen Press, Sydney Leroux, June Endo, and Riley Tiernan. Now thinking about you in that mix, how does the need to keep performing and earn your minutes on the team that you're on affect your mentality day to day in practice?
pressure is a privilege. I think if you don't have pressure, then you might not be doing something right. So I think just continuing to have the mentality that I've had and just put myself in dangerous spaces and just focus on that and being a good teammate and making the right decisions and just learning. I think that's the most important thing, especially as a rookie. I feel like as a rookie, I know my role is to like absorb as much information as I can. So I've just been trying to like be extremely coachable and continue to grow and not just like stay in the same. That's my biggest fear is to just like stay in the same range. Like I want to keep improving.
Spoken not like a rookie. It's really cool to hear you talk about that. I also think with all of these other really talented forwards on your team, like there's a lot of internal competitiveness to start and to get minutes in games. And I think what's really interesting about that is you're already talking about just absorbing from these other players and being a good teammate. In what ways are some of the other forwards teaching you? And in what ways do you find yourself like rooting for them and wanting everybody to be successful?
That was one of the main things too coming in. I think everyone was so like welcoming and comforting, and that's something that you maybe don't expect because of how like competitive the environment is and how it's like a job and like everyone's fighting and competing for a spot and everyone wants to play and have like the honor to be able to step on the field and play in front of all the fans. So that was definitely something that I was expecting. But then coming in, everyone was really nice, especially Sydney Leroux, who is a player that I've literally grown up watching and looked up to. So, like, I remember seeing her for the first time. Same with Kristen Press, like in person in the locker room. I was like, what is going on? And then I ended up getting like really close with Sid, and she was so helpful to me. Like, she still is. Like, just today, we were doing extra work. She is always telling me little tips and tricks that I'm not going to share because I'm going to keep them a secret.
As you should.
But Claire Emsley also was another one. She really helped me on the field and off the field a lot. I remember she would always be like, you're killing it, like keep it up. And it just was like really nice to be reassured and like hear that. And I would say pretty much everyone has helped me. I could sit here and name every person on the team that's helped, but yeah, it was just really nice to like feel like they wanted me to be better and to actually like help me out and not just like be like, oh, you can do it on your own. Like, so that was really nice.
Yeah, it's so awesome to hear that like older players are really invested in the future of the league and invested in rookies' success. I think that I love hearing stories about that, and I'm so happy that you have such great role models on your team. All right, I'm excited to hype up this game against San Diego that's coming up a little bit because in the last few weeks before this long international break for some of these major tournaments that we've had going on, Angel City did slip a little bit in the standings. They're currently at the time of this recording in the bottom half of the table, but hopefully not for long. But every single win counts if you guys want to close that gap. You're also about to play against your rivals, the San Diego Wave. The Wave and Angel City came into the league at the same time. They share a lot of things in common, you know, Southern California. There's lots of maybe traffic around there. I feel like there's been a lot of maybe nicknames thrown around for this rivalry, but it's very, very heated. How have some of these more veteran players kind of talked to you younger players and like trained you ahead of this rivalry? Like, what have they told you about what it means to the team?
Pretty much every game we go in with the same mentality that we fight and we give everything that we have and it's for each other. And we just had a really important team meeting about like how important like togetherness is. And I think that's what separates teams, especially in a competitive league like this with so much talent. I think talent can only get you so far. I think it comes down to like your wantingness and your willingness to do things, but not just for yourself, for each other. So yeah, I think in a rivalry like this, it's comes down to like grit. And I don't know if that's just my perspective because of Jersey and stuff like that, but I feel like everyone can agree that it's a battle and everyone loves a battle. So I think it maybe adds a little bit more pressure and a little bit more spice, but if anything, I think it'll help us out.
Well, for sure, especially with you at Angel City. The fans of both teams are some of the league's loudest. In your first matchup against San Diego, you got to play them at home at BMO Stadium in front of your fans. But this time you're going down to San Diego, and I feel like this actually might suit you better, Riley. Like, you're going to kind of get to be the villain now.
I think I like that better. I think being the underdog is like a huge thing. They might expect like not a lot from us because of like where we're ranked, like our current stats and stuff like that. But I think being the underdog and going into someone else's home is the best advantage ever because beating someone in their own field is really nice.
Yeah, I will also say like Angel City has been like one of the most fun teams to watch. I know results have been up and down, but a lot of our staff here at the Women's Game are Angel City fans, like diehard Angel City fans, and their energy about the team has like kind of got me rooting for you guys as well. So it's been so fun to watch. As part of this rivalry series, we actually also spoke to Sam Hyatt, who plays for the Thorns, and there are lots of traditions in Portland and Seattle when it comes to that rivalry, the Cascadia rivalry. Do you know yet of any kind of behind the scenes traditions around these games between Angel City and San Diego?
I don't know if I don't know or if there aren't any. But I'm guessing that maybe I'll find out if there is.
It
But
is
as
a
of right
newer,
now,
it is newer. So maybe they're in the making.
yeah, as of right now, I'm not sure. But maybe after the game, there will be.
Yeah,
That'd be
okay.
crazy.
I like that. It still could be born. So we're open to
Yeah.
ideas. I did also just mention, and I don't know if there is an official name for this rivalry. I called it the SoCal rivalry. Is there another name that you've heard that you think is better?
I don't think there is. I'm gonna have to do some research on that because I don't think I've heard anything else.
I
But I'm
know.
sure there is.
I know. We definitely need some more catchy names for some of these rivalries.
Yeah.
Your first meeting against the Wave ended in a draw. They currently are sitting near the top of the table. But I would just go out on a limb here and say that maybe they don't need this win like you guys do. And I know, Riley, that you are not afraid to put yourself in pressure situations. What would a win and a great performance mean to you in this game, even outside of the standings? Just to you as an Angel City player who came to LA from Jersey, like what does defending your team against this rivalry mean to you?
Yeah, I think it just adds a little bit more fuel to the fire. And I think knowing that we have to go in and get these points and like it's coming to the point of the season where now like everyone's fighting for a playoff game and a championship. So I think this is really where it starts to matter. And I think our new coach Alex has also brought a lot of intensity into the environment, which has been really great. Yeah, I'm going to use an Eagles quote here because I am thinking of it. And it's hungry dogs run faster. And I live by that. And I think that if anyone's hungry in this league, it's us because there's been so many close results and so many things where I feel like we may have not gotten the result we want or like really frustrating times. So I think it's just gonna light a fire under our butts and we're gonna come out and they're gonna be like, oh, they'll be on their heels and we're gonna come out fighting for
Oh
the
my
win.
gosh. I'm obsessed. I love that you use that quote. Like I like literally want to be best friends. Okay, last question for you, Riley. This team has gone through a lot of change. You mentioned new head coach Alex Strauss, and you have had a lot of really difficult moments as well this season. When you think back to just 6 or 7 months ago, you're arriving in LA, you're uncertain, you don't have a contract yet, you've taken this big risk. What would you tell that younger version of yourself who thought she might not make this team? Like, what have you learned on this journey that you would share with that younger version of yourself?
Yeah, I would say to just like not worry so much. I find myself to be a person who like I'm very like anxious all the time. And a lot of people think that like I'm not, like because my personality is very like outgoing and like I don't know, I feel like I always am like joking around and try to see like the lighter side of things, but like I'm very like mentally like the type to like replay a conversation over and over again and be like, "Wait, what did I say?" Which is like something that I definitely have struggled with, but I think I would just tell myself to just like relax and like you're doing everything that you can and everything else is out of your control. So just like take that weight off your shoulders. Cause I remember there was days where like it felt like there was an elephant on my chest and I was like, oh my,
Yeah.
like that like sense of panic because then it's like, what am I gonna do? Like I always think of the worst case scenario and like what I'm gonna do when it happens, which I think can be a good thing, but it can also kind of be like exhausting, I feel like. So I would just tell myself to just relax and you got it and don't worry so much and just enjoy yourself day by day.
I think that's honestly a great message for all of us to hear. I'm listening to you and I'm like 10 years older than you and I'm like, yeah, I need to hear that too. So,
Yeah.
Riley, this was literally so much fun. I'm going to be rooting for you the whole rest of the season. You have been such a fun player to watch and it's been so awesome to see a girl from the Northeast do so great in the league. You have a big fan over here. So thank you so much for being here today and good luck against San Diego.
Thanks so much. This was like therapy.
I literally, it was so fun.
I loved it.
Huge thanks again to our friends at Ally, the official banking partner of the NWSL and the WNBA, for sponsoring this episode. Ally is the first and still the only brand to publicly commit to spending equally on men's and women's sports media with its 50-50 pledge. Be sure to keep your eyes peeled this weekend for the biggest rivalry matchups in both the NWSL and WNBA, as NWSL Rivals Weekend and WNBA Rivals Week, presented by Ally, will highlight both classic and emerging rivalries in marquee matchups that embody the intensity and passion of both leagues. And if you aren't in New York tonight, check out our live show on YouTube. Thank you all so much for being here. We'll see you soon.